Feedback. You ever meet someone and it just clicks? The conversation flows, that spark, that buzz in your body. Maybe you're even thinking feedback. Wow, this could be something. And it's not just you're getting signals back. He's texting consistently, maybe calling, planning dates, saying all the right things. Model feedback. There's excitement. There's chemistry. You feel like he's of interest. So naturally, you start to open up, to lean in a little. You let yourself feel the possibility back. And just as quickly as it all began, he starts to fade. The text slow down. The energy shifts. You sense it in your gut even before anything obvious happens. And then poof. He's gone, back, disappeared. No explanation, no clear reason. And here's what we do. We rewind the entire thing in our heads, every conversation, every moment, every signal. We obsess. Was I too available? Feedback. Not enough. Did I say something wrong? Did I misread it all? That spiral is brutal. Feedback. But what I want you to understand, what I really want you to take in, is that just because someone seems interested doesn't mean they are emotionally available. And chemistry, feedback, it's not commitment. It's not even connection. It's often just familiarity or excitement or a moment of shared energy that doesn't necessarily go deeper. Feedback. This is one of the biggest emotional traps to fall into. Confusing the feeling of chemistry for the presence of real intention. But what's tricky is, in the beginning, feedback. Even the emotionally unavailable guy can show up with all the signs of effort, because in those early stages, it's not that hard to seem interested. Feedback. Sending a good morning text and take a lot of emotional investment. Making plans for Friday night doesn't require long-term thinking. Feedback. What does require something deeper is consistency over time. What requires real intention is showing up not just when it's exciting, but when it's inconvenient. And most of all, feedback. It requires emotional bandwidth, which a lot of people simply don't have, even if they think they do. Feedback. What I want you to start noticing is that some people are not intentionally trying to deceive you. They're deceiving themselves. They genuinely believe they're ready for something real. Feedback. They believe their interest is sustainable, but that's only because they haven't yet reached the part of the relationship where anything real is being asked of them. Feedback. The early stages of dating are like emotional tourism. You visit the sites, try the food, enjoy the view, but you're not applying for citizenship. You're not building a life there. Feedback. The moment someone starts to feel that something more might be expected. Emotional depth, reliability, showing up on the days they don't feel like it. That's when their bandwidth gets tested back. So when someone disappears, it's not because your value changed. It's because the situation changed. It moved from light to real, from temporary to potentially long-term. Feedback. And a lot of people can't bridge that gap, not because they're bad people, because they're still emotionally operating from a place of fear avoidance or unhealed wounds. Some men, yes, feedback. Even the ones who say they're looking for something real haven't yet confronted what that really means. So they flirt with the idea. They enjoy the beginning. Feedback. But the moment it starts to feel like anything more, they pull away, not because they plan to hurt you, but because staying would require growth they're not yet committed to. Feedback. Here's the part that's important for EU. You need to start looking beyond early effort, because early effort is not a reliable indicator of long-term potential. Instead, feedback. Start paying attention to whether effort is growing over time or fizzling. Is his energy expanding as he gets to know you or shrinking as the novelty wears off? Feedback. Is his presence becoming more dependable or more sporadic? Is he showing interest in your emotional world, or just continuing surface level conversations that never really go deeper? Feedback. You don't need to be cynical, but you do need to be discerning. Emotional maturity doesn't always look like fireworks on date one. Sometimes it looks quieter, but it builds. Feedback. You're not looking for someone who can impress you for a weekend. You're looking for someone who can show up for the long haul. And if he disappears, that's information. Feedback. It's not your cue to work harder. It's you to say, there it is, his ceiling. Because that disappearing act, that's the truth showing up. Feedback. That's his actual level of availability. That's who he really is when there's nothing left to prove. And I know when you're excited about someone, feedback. The last thing you want to believe is that maybe they were never as invested as they seemed. But if someone can so easily disconnect without explanation, feedback. What kind of partner were they ever going to be? Relationships aren't built in the moments when it's easy to show up. They're built in the moments when it's hard to. Feedback. And if he disappears the moment it gets real, he was never staying anyway. Let him go. He's not your person. Feedback. You know the feeling. You meet someone and it just feels right. There's a spark. He's saying all the right things, doing all the right things. He seems genuinely interested. Feedback. He's asking about your day, planning dates, telling you how amazing you are. And for a moment, it feels like you finally met someone who sees you. You start to get excited. Feedback. You let yourself imagine where this could go, not 10 years down the line, but just forward. And just as quickly as it started, something shifts. His energy changes. The text gets shorter. Feedback. The good morning messages stop, plans suddenly get busy. And before you even fully understand what's happening, he's gone. He disappears. It's confusing. It's painful. And worst of all, model feedback. It makes you do everything, your instincts, your worth, your judgment. You ask yourself, feedback. How could someone who was so into me just vanish like that? You replay the conversations in your mind, dissect the last date, the last text. You wonder if you said something wrong. Feedback. If you came on too strong, or maybe not strong enough, becomes a storm. But here's something I want you to remember. Early interest isn't the same as real readiness. Feedback. We live in a world where the beginning of a relationship has become the highlight reel. The first few weeks, maybe even the first couple of months, are a performance feedback. And most people are great at performing. They don't mean to be deceptive. In fact, a lot of the time, they're being sincere in the moment. When he says, feedback, I've never met anyone like you, he probably means it. When he talks about future plans, he might genuinely picture you there. Feedback. But meaning it in the moment doesn't mean he's capable of sustaining it. See, a man can be attracted to you, interested in you, feedback, even impressed by you, and still be completely unprepared for what a real connection actually requires. And that's the difference. The man who disappears, feedback, he was only prepared for the part that felt exciting. The newness, the dopamine, the fantasy. He wasn't prepared for the emotional reality that follows when something starts to feel real. Because real requires showing up even when the excitement settles. It requires depth, not just desire. This is where we fall into the trap. We mistake intensity for intention, but intensity is easy. Feedback. Anyone can show up with excitement when it's all new and fun. That takes no real emotional investment. Feedback. The real test isn't how someone shows up when they want to. It's how they show up when they don't feel like it, when they're tired, when it's inconvenient, when it's vulnerable. Model feedback. And that's where a lot of men disappear, because they didn't like you, not because you weren't enough. They never had the emotional capacity to move beyond that first stage. Feedback. And here's the frustrating part. Many of them don't even realize it. They're not walking around thinking, let me pretend to be interested, and then disappear. Most of the time, feedback. They're caught in their own loop. They enjoy the thrill of new connection. They get high on being desired. They chase the experience, not the responsibility that comes with it. And then feedback. When it starts to feel like something deeper might be required, like consistency, vulnerability, or even just honest communication, they panic. They pull back. Feedback. And instead of facing their own fear or unreadiness, they take the easy exit. Now, what happens when we internalize that disappearance? We go into overdrive trying to make sense of it, feedback, trying to solve a problem that was never ours to begin with. But the truth is, when someone disappears like they're revealing something, they're showing you their limit. Their ceiling, feedback, their emotional bandwidth. And that's not something you caused. It's something they carried into the situation long before they met you. So what can you do? Feedback. You stop giving so much weight to the early signs of interest, because anyone can be charming for a week. What you want to pay attention to is not just who shows up at the beginning, feedback, but who keeps showing up, who is consistent, not just enthusiastic, who asks questions about your world, not just tells you what you want to hear, who makes space for emotional depth, feedback. Not just momentary connection. You're not looking for a man who makes you feel special for a night. You're looking for a man who makes you feel safe across time. And when someone disappears, feedback. Instead of taking it as a rejection, take it as redirection, because the disappearing act, that's not the loss. That's the gift. That's clarity, feedback. That's you being spared from someone who was never equipped to go the distance. Let his absence be the proof you needed. Feedback. So here's what usually happens. A man comes into your life. He shows interest. Maybe he's chasing you a bit. He's present, engaged, curious. So you start to see chosen, feedback. And there's this relief, like finally someone is you choosing you. You let your guard down a little. You lean in, imagining the possibility of something real. And then without warning, feedback, he begins to pull away. He's longer to reply. He's not as enthusiastic. Plans start to stall. He shifts and you feel it. And in that moment, something inside you panics, feedback. Your nervous system kicks in. You go from calm to anxious without knowing why. And this is where the trap begins. Because when someone we're interested in starts to pull back, feedback, we don't tend to pull back with them. We lean harder in. We want answers. We want clarity. We want to regain the connection we felt slipping through our fingers. So what do? Feedback. We overfunction. We send the follow-up text. We ask if everything's okay. We try to re-engage him emotionally. Maybe we initiate plans. We try to remind him how good things were. Feedback. We show up in all the ways we think might reignite his interest. But underneath all of that effort is one quiet, desperate question back. Or was I not enough? What I want you to understand is that this moment, this gap between his withdrawal and your reaction, is where your power either gets activated or handed away. Feedback. And the truth is, most of us are not taught how to sit in that gap without trying to fix it. We've been conditioned by culture, by our past, feedback, some even by our trauma, that if someone pulls away, it must be because of something we did. So we hustle to fill the space, to get back in their good graces. Feedback, to make sure we're not abandoned. But this path's exhausting. It's not only emotionally depleting, it's also deeply disempowering. Feedback, because now you're operating from the belief that connection is something you have to woo-earn, instead of something that's mutual, organic, and chosen on both sides. There's an alternative, feedback, and it's not easy at first, but it is powerful. It's the conscious decision to not chase, to let the pullback happen without trying to fix it. Feedback. To sit in the discomfort of someone's uncertainty without making it mean something about your value. Feedback. That moment where you resist the urge to prove yourself is the moment you shift your entire dating experience. And I get it, it sounds counterintuitive because you want connection, feedback, you want clarity, and you don't want to lose something that felt so good. But what you actually lose when you chase is you yourself, your dignity, your grounding, your peace. Feedback. Because now you're responding to someone else's fear or emotional limitation as if it's your job to solve it. But it's not. You're not here to convince someone of your worth. Feedback. That's not your role. You're here to recognize who's capable of seeing it without needing a campaign. And here's the beautiful parting: when you stop chasing feedback, you get to observe who someone really is. Because if a man's interest can't survive your silence, if it needs you constantly reaching out, reminding him, nudging him, feedback, keeping the energy alive, then what exactly are you building? Something that depends on your constant effort to keep from collapsing? Feedback. What you want to see is how he behaves when you stop doing the emotional labor. Does he step in and reckon it? Does he vanish quietly and confirm that the connection was already one-sided? Feedback. Either way, you gain clarity. Either way, you save yourself weeks, months, or even years of confusion. Now, that doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean being cold or manipulative. Feedback. It simply means holding your line, responding, not chasing, meeting energy, not overextending. Because when a man is truly interested, he doesn't need prompting. He doesn't need reminders. Feedback. He's there, present. He's consistent. And when he's not, that's the information. But you don't need to twist yourself into a more likable version. Feedback. You don't need to be more chill, more flirty, more agreeable. The man who's meant for you isn't going to need a revised edition of you. He's going to respond to the real you. The grounded, feedback, confident, emotionally available version of you that doesn't perform for approval. So next time someone pulls back and you feel that anxious impulse to fix, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, feedback. Am I trying to prove my worth to someone who hasn't even earned a front row seat in my life? That one question can save you from years of emotional strain, because the truth is feedback. The right person doesn't make you feel like you have to win them over. They make you feel like you just be, without running, without chasing, without shrinking back. You never prove your value to someone who lost sight of it. Feedback. One of the hardest things to accept in dating is that someone can show up with just enough effort to keep you hopeful, but not enough to truly build something real. Feedback. And unless you've trained yourself to spot it, it can be easy to confuse momentary presence with long-term potential. Feedback. This is where we get caught. We mistake someone's availability right now for emotional availability overall. Feedback. But just because someone shows up with energy today doesn't mean they have the capacity to show up consistently over time. Most of us are wired to focus on how a connection feels. That's natural. When there's chemistry, when someone is charming or attentive early on, when you're laughing, flirting, having great conversations, it feels good. You feel seen. Desired? Feedback. There's a rush to that. But what we often forget is that chemistry is not a reliable predictor of compatibility, and it certainly isn't proof of emotional readiness. If anything, feedback. Chemistry can actually cloud judgment. It makes you attach quickly. It makes you overlook red flags. Feedback. And it makes you anchor your hopes to what the connection you could be rather than what it actually is. You need to start developing what I call your emotional availability radar. Feedback. It's the skill of looking past the words, past charm, past the initial gestures, and asking feedback. Does this person have the emotional maturity and readiness to show up for something real? Because if they don't, it doesn't matter how much potential you see. Feedback. You can't build a healthy relationship with potential. You can only build with showing up who someone they present, not just the person you hope they become. There are signs, real feedback, tangible signs, that someone may not be emotionally available, even if they're acting interested. One of the biggest is inconsistency. Feedback. Does he show up strong one week and then disappear the next? Does he communicate clearly, or does he go quiet and vague when things get deeper? Is his effort steady back, or does it spike when he's afraid of losing you, only to drop off once things feel safe again? Another big one, emotional openness. Back. Does he talk about his feelings and past experiences with some level of honesty and awareness, or does he avoid vulnerability altogether? When someone dodges emotional conversations, feedback, or only speaks in surface level ways about their lives, not a small thing. That's a clue, because people who are ready for connection want to be known. They want to share feedback. They don't hide behind vague stories or half-truths. They invite you in, not just into their schedule, but into their world. And what about consistency of action? Because that's everything. Back. Words are easy. Anyone can say, I miss you, or I'm looking for something serious. But do their actions match those words? Do they follow through when they say they'll call? Feedback. Do they show up when they say they will? Are they making space in their life for you, or are you constantly trying to fit into their already full, unavailable world? The tricky part is feedback. Many people won't show their unavailability up front. They'll give you just enough to keep you hooked, enough charm, enough affection. Feedback. Enough occasional presence that you second guess your instincts. You think, maybe I'm overthinking it, or maybe I just need to be more patient. And of course, Feedback. There's value in patience, but not when it becomes a cover for self-abandonment. If you're constantly in a state of emotional guessing, if you're unsure where you stand, feedback. Unsure of what they want, unsure if they'll even respond to your next message. That's not emotional safety. That's emotional gambling. Feedback. And relationships that require you to gamble for scraps of certainty are not relationships you want to be in. When someone is emotionally available, you feel it, not just in the romantic moments, feedback, but in the quiet ones, in the consistency, in the way they communicate even when life is busy or stressful, in the way they care about your feelings, not just your time. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to decode it. You don't have to shrink yourself just to keep them close. But in order to recognize that kind of availability, you have to first believe that you deserve it. Because if deep down you're used to inconsistency or chaos, emotional unavailability can feel familiar and therefore safe. You might even mistake someone's hot and cold behavior as passion, feedback, or confuse their emotional avoidance with mystery. But there's no mystery in someone who genuinely wants you. They make it known, they make it clear, they make it safe. And so feedback, your job isn't just to look for attraction. It's to listen to what someone's behavior tells you about their readiness. Are they consistent? Are they available? Not just physically feedback, but emotionally. Are they showing up without needing you to constantly prompt or guide them? Trust what you see, not just what you hope to see. Because the earlier you spot the signs, feedback, the sooner you can stop investing in people who were never truly capable of investing back. Feedback. Emotional availability isn't about how much someone says they want you. It's about how steadily they show up when it actually counts. Feedback. Let's talk about something that rarely gets enough attention in dating conversations, your standard for how you want to feel. Because when it comes to choosing a partner, feedback. Most people talk about what they want someone to have: a good job, a sense of humor, ambition, kindness. That's fine, feedback. But what gets lost in that list is the one question that actually determines whether a relationship will be healthy, sustainable, and fulfilling. How do I want to feel in someone's presence? Feedback. And in this relationship, when someone disappears on us or becomes inconsistent, we often get stuck analyzing of them. Why did they pull away? Were they scared? Feedback. Was it something we said or didn't say? But here's the truth. Chasing explanations keeps us focused in the wrong direction. Instead of centering yourself, feedback. You start orbiting around someone else's behavior. You become more invested in solving the mystery of them than in honoring yours. So let's bring it back to you. Feedback. When you think about what you want in love, I want you to stop thinking in terms of characteristics and start thinking in terms of feelings. Do you want to feel safe, valued, calm, desired? Seen. Feedback. These are not luxuries. They're your emotional compass. They're how your body and heart tell you whether you're in the right place. Feedback. And when someone makes you feel the opposite of those things, anxious, uncertain, off balance, unseen, it's not your cue to try harder. It's your sign to pause and reflect. Feedback, because how you feel around someone tells you everything about their impact on your emotional life. We tend to minimize these feelings. We tell ourselves feedback. It's just the early days, or I'm probably overreacting, or this is what dating is like these days. But if you're spending more time feeling confused than connected, feedback. More time anxious than excited, more time chasing than receiving. That matters. That's your body's wisdom trying to protect you. Feedback. And if you've ignored that inner signal before and gotten hurt, then you know exactly how important it is to listen now. This is about your standard of emotional experience. Feedback. A man who is genuinely right for you doesn't just come with good qualities. He brings out the best you in you. He brings peace to your nervous system. He brings clarity to your heart. Feedback. He doesn't put you in a position where you're constantly wondering how he feels or where you stand. Feedback. And if you've ever been with someone who gave you just enough to keep you there, but not enough to feel secure, then you already know how exhausting that is. Feedback. You don't want love that feels like work from the very beginning. Yes, relationships take effort, but not effort to convince someone, not effort to interpret mixed signals. Feedback. Not effort to be low maintenance, so you don't scare someone off. That's not effort. That's emotional labor you shouldn't have to do just to keep someone interested. Feedback. So let's flip the script. Instead of asking, does he like me? Or how do I keep him interested? Ask her, how do I feel around him? Do I feel safe to express myself? Do I feel respected? Feedback. Do I feel like I'm chasing, or do I feel like I'm being met with equal energy? These questions shift the power back to you. Feedback. Because dating isn't about earning someone's approval. It's about you co-evaluating. You're not auditioning, you're assessing, just like they are. And here's the real power move. Feedback. Being willing to walk away, not because someone is a terrible person, but because they don't create the emotional experience you want to live in. That's hard. Feedback. Especially when there's chemistry, especially when they're nice. But you have to love yourself enough to say, this doesn't feel like enough. Even if no one else sees the red flags. Feedback. Even if you can't articulate it perfectly. Even if you wanted so badly for it to work. Because love is not supposed to leave you guessing. Feedback. It's not supposed to make you feel like you're constantly doing emotional math to figure out if someone's still into you. Feedback. You deserve to be with someone who makes it obvious, not just with words, but with actions, with consistency, with presence, with effort. And when that becomes your standard feedback, something amazing happens. You stop tolerating breadcrumbs. You stop interpreting silence as mystery. You stop overvaluing potential and start honoring reality. You date with more confidence, feedback, clarity, more calm. And the people who are only capable of showing up halfway, they lose access to you, not because you're cold or detached. Feedback, because your standard is rooted in something deeper than chemistry. It's rooted in self-respect. So if you're in a place right now where someone is making you feel uncertain or off balance, feedback. Come back to this thing. How do I want to feel? And if what you're experiencing isn't close to that, you have permission to let go. Not because they're bad. Feedback. Because you've decided that your peace, your joy, and your sense of worth are no longer up for negotiation. When you raise your standard for how you want to feel, feedback. You stop chasing the wrong ones and start making space for the right one to find you. Feedback. There's a quiet shift that happens when someone pulls away, one that we don't talk about enough. It's not just that we question, are you them? It's that slowly feedback. We start questioning ourselves. We go from feeling confident to feeling unsure, from feeling chosen to wondering what we did wrong. And in that space of uncertainty, a dangerous voice creeps in. Feedback. The one that says, maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe you weren't fun enough, or easygoing enough, or sexy, sweet, smart, chill, low maintenance, insert whatever word enough. That voice, feedback. It's not telling the truth. It's just echoing an old fear. Because what really hurts when someone disappears isn't just the loss of that connection. Feedback. It's the story we tell ourselves about a why they disappeared. And most of the time we write that story from our wounds, not our wisdom. We don't say feedback. That person lacked the emotional capacity for a real connection. We say, I must have done something to push them away. But if that's your default, feedback, it's not because it's true. It's because you've been conditioned to internalize rejection, to see someone else's limitations as a reflection of your value. And that has to stop. Feedback. We don't heal by getting someone to come back. We don't get our confidence back by winning someone over. Feedback. We heal when we stop chasing clarity from people who never had the capacity to give it in the first place. We heal when we stop tying our worth to someone else's consistency or lack of it. Feedback. Because what someone else doesn't do is you never a reliable mirror for your value. You don't get smaller just because someone couldn't hold space for your depth. We model feedback. You don't lose your light just because someone closed their eyes. So what do you do instead? You turn inward. You remind yourself of your enoughness back, especially in the absence of external validation. You stop waiting for someone to return with an explanation that finally makes you feel okay. Feedback. You decide that you don't need their explanation to move forward with strength. You don't need them to confirm that you were worthy of more effort, more clarity, more care. Feedback, because you already were. And that's not just a mantra. It's a mindset shift. You stop making their inconsistency the center of your narrative. Feedback. You stop creating a personality around trying to be what they might want. You reclaim your identity. You reconnect with the version of you that doesn't perform for love, feedback, but expects it to show up in alignment with how you give it. You realign with the grounded, loving, emotionally intelligent woman you've always been, long before they enter the picture. Feedback. This is the powerful antidote. You don't just wait for someone better to come along. You become someone who no longer tolerates connections that leave you questioning yourself back. You build a relationship with your own inner peace that becomes non-negotiable. And when that's in place, when your sense of self becomes untouchable, feedback, something magic happens. You stop reacting out of fear. You stop shrinking to be more palatable. You stop chasing the person who left. Feedback, because you're too busy standing with the person who stayed you. And let's be honest, some people will never give you the closure you wanted. Feedback. Some people will leave you with half-finished sentences, emotional cliffhangers, or just plain silence. And as painful as that can be, there's a deeper freedom in choosing to close the chapter yourself, not because you don't care, because you care about you more. You choose your future over their absence. Feedback. Your healing over their hesitation, your clarity over their confusion. And it's not about pretending you didn't care. Feedback. It's not about becoming cold or distant or pretending like nothing happened. It's about allowing the experience to refine you, not define you. It's about taking the lessons, not the baggage. Feedback. You learn that next time when you feel that slight pull, that mixed message, that inconsistent effort, you won't chase it down. You'll notice it and you'll choose differently back, not from bitterness, but from strength, from wisdom, from love for yourself, because the goal is not to become so guarded that you never get hurt again. Feedback. The goal is to become so rooted in your self-worth that when someone does pull away, your world doesn't fall apart. You don't spin. You don't question your entire being. Feedback. You simply see it as what I saw, someone stepping out of alignment with what you're building. And that's okay. You release it. You bless it. You let it go. And that kind of woman. feedback, the one who doesn't beg for clarity, who doesn't need someone to stay in order to know her worth. That woman is powerful. She's magnetic, not because she never hurts feedback, but because she knows how to alchemize that hurt into strength, into wisdom, into deeper standards and quieter confidence. So the next time someone disappears, don't go chasing them. Feedback, go deeper into you. That's where the real clarity lies. That's where the healing is. That's where your power returns. Feedback. And that's where the right love will eventually meet you, not because you waited, but because you rose